Good morning, everyone. Always nice to be the panel post the coffee break, so I hope you've all fueled up. As Dewald mentioned, started a bit of intros, but Jess, Head of Sales, and I'll be moderating the panel. And the topic we're going to be focusing on today is the future of e-commerce. The next topic will focus more on the omni-channel side, but I think it's pertinent given the growth that we're seeing in this space to have a specific topic on it. I do want to kick off, though, with an apology to KG. I promise our sales team, the people that we're speaking to as CEO and customer success, like our sales team are way more subtle than that when we want to work with people. And I strictly told them to play it cool, and I'm still not sure if they want vouchers for their Colonel Burger or if they want KFC to use Stitch, so TBC. And the second is, KG and I have been on a panel before, so she said to me earlier she has PTSD, because I give the illusion of being well prepared, and I have calls with all of them, and I give them their questions, and I'm like, cool, we're going to stick to script, and then I tend to go a bit rogue and ask questions we haven't prepared, which you'll all know in the corporate space is super risky, if you can speak about it or if you want to speak about it. So gloves are off. If I ask you something you're not comfortable with, you can absolutely ask it back at me and then just see how good I am at selling things I don't know about. But cool, let's dive into it. So when we think about the future of e-com, it's tempting to just focus on a particular piece of innovation. But I think the focus should be how will consumers in South Africa want to shop, eat, and travel? And how do we make sure that as brands, we're meeting them where they expect us to be? We all know that online commerce is growing. South Africans are shopping digitally every single day, but that story isn't linear. A lot of brands are still very much catered towards the in-store space in terms of how their businesses are structured. Payments still fail, problem we're trying to solve. Many people still rely on cash. Trust is growing, but it can still be fickle. And access just isn't equal. And at the same time, consumer expectations are rising. They're very needy. They want convenience, they want choice, they want reliability, they want speed, and they want it across every facet of their life. And as I said, they expect us to deliver on that. So there's this tension between convenience and trust, innovation and inclusion, choice versus simplicity. And I think that is what makes this topic such an interesting conversation. I'm honored to be joined by these three panelists, and I don't want to butcher their introduction. So I know DOV gave a bit of a basic one on who they are and what they do, but I do want to hand over and give them an opportunity. Alex?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Wörz, CEO of Mr. D. As mentioned earlier, I've been part of the business for 10 years. And in the break, we had a brief conversation about being part of a business from the start and the context that it gives. So I've really seen the on-demand journey and how it transitioned over the past 10 years. So initially about food delivery, next steps into groceries, and now about really hyper-local convenience. So yeah, looking forward to the discussion and sharing the perspectives that I have, and obviously that also the audience can bring to the table.
Amazing. I have two confessions. My name is Linda. From Travelstart, two confessions. One, I have never picked up a paddle racket, so I feel a bit inadequate in this crowd. And two, I'm really hungry because I'm sitting between Mr. D and KFC. So my stomach growls. I apologize. It's their fault. And I'm also scared because Jess is going to, apparently we're going to end up with PTSD. But other than those, now that that's open, you know what I'm going through. I have the great honor of working at Travelstart, also for about 9 years. So it's an amazing company, South African company, and the largest OTA or online travel agency in Africa. So that is us. And here's my Colonel Burger friend.
Hello, hi. If you look under your chairs, there's a Colonel Burger for everyone. Just kidding, no, there isn't. So hi everyone, I'm Kgomotso Rammutla, but you can call me KG, and I'm the digital director for KFC Africa. So that's looking after 22 markets in Africa and all the digital infrastructure sitting there. I've only been there for 2 months. As Gia said, I was at Wörz Financial Services, and that's where I met the Stitch team and where the Stitch team is working, where I've put them in there. And so yeah, that's it about me.
Awesome. So in the fireside earlier, Fred said something which I wanted to touch on, that we need to be obsessed with the consumer. So I think always good to start there. And in terms of their expectations, across the different businesses, that's changing, right? What convenience means, how people want to engage with you, and even what they expect when something goes wrong. I'd love to hear from each of you of how you're experiencing that. So maybe KG, given you've recently launched or joined KFC, this is a new role both for you and for the business with a focus on Africa. What drew you to the role, and where do you see the biggest opportunities to shape the future of fast food online in South Africa?
2 things that drew me to the role. I get to eat chicken every day in every meeting, and they pay quite well. But no, just kidding. So there are literally 2 things that drew me to the role. So the first one was the impact potential. Like I said, KFC Africa operates in 22 markets with over 1,000 restaurants. So the canvas for innovation is huge. And there's very few brands who have the reach, the trust, accessibility like KFC that helps us roll out digital solutions very fast. The second thing that drew me to KFC is the culture. So again, very few organizations talk about innovation, but actually live it, right? So they talk about it, they don't do it. But in KFC, and I think not a lot of people know this, it's one of our best kept secrets, is we recently bought a technology company named Byte. So Yama, our parent company, bought a technology company named Byte, and the sole purpose of that company is to innovate and roll out new technologies across all our restaurants. So that's Taco Bell, Habitat, KFC, and Pizza Hut. And another thing is we won Digital Brand of the Year this year. So KFC is really focused on digitizing and innovation. So that really drew me to, this role that I'm in today. And when you talk about, you said convenience is what people look for. We believe convenience is a thing of the past. So our sister company, Pizza Hut, I don't know if many of you know this, in the 1960s, they were the first ones to do telephonic pizza ordering. And then in the 1990s, I think it was 1994, they were the first ones to do online ordering. And that's convenience, right? But that's 30 years ago. So for us, convenience is then, the future is control. And I think, for example, Mr. D is doing it very well, where customers want to control what they order, when they order, how they order. And that's the future that we want to play in. You're doing transactional control, we want to do experiential control going forward.
Okay, that leads me actually over to you, Alex. Given you've expanded beyond food into more groceries and essentials, what does that say about how South Africans define convenience commerce or this on-demand journey? And how do you see that evolving?
Okay, perfect. Let's start this with a little poll because, humans in general are very, very bad about predicting the future, but we can learn from the past and obviously where we find ourselves today. So if you think about the last month, how many of you ordered takeaway food online? Okay, vast majority. How many of you ordered online groceries? Also the vast majority. How many of you ordered the next wave of categories such as, let's call it gifting or pet care or baby stuff on demand online? We're still seeing a few hands, but not nearly as many. Now, what if I asked that same question 3 or 4 years ago? I think roughly the same amount of people would have risen their hand when it came to food delivery. Half or less than half would have raised their hands when it came to on-demand groceries. And again, hardly any would have risen their hand when it came to the newer categories. Now let's extrapolate and move that forward. What's the answer going to be in a couple of years' time? Food delivery, absolutely. Online groceries, that's been habituated and is obviously going to continue growing, but it's the new normal. All those other categories, I think that's where the change and the shift and the expansion in terms of categories is most certainly going to change. So we're moving from high frequency, high urgency categories such as food delivery and groceries to categories that might not be as high frequency. However, the urgency is still there. You need nappies for your baby. Don't need it all the time, but it's very urgent. Need pet for your need food for your pet. Once again, if you've run out, it becomes very, very urgent. You're moving into categories like pharmacy. That's once again not the same frequency as groceries, but the urgency elements. And I'm going to stick to the word convenience, but you're giving people control by being able to order those things on demand as well. And I think that's where the industry is going to be moving in the years ahead.
I think directors or movie writers have an issue because most meet cutes happen in a garage. I've forgotten one item and off I pop and there I meet the love of my life in that classic rom-com. Not anymore, order it from your couch. But speaking about all these varieties, how do you balance the simplicity side of it, Alex? Because you're bringing on all these different categories. Is there a concern on overwhelming the consumer, or how do you lead that journey?
No, absolutely. I mean, even thinking back at our own journey when we launched groceries about 3 years ago, I underestimated the internal complexity that it created. So we took our undivided focus away from food delivery, and we now needed to build something else, which already introduced complexity into our own teams. Now moving into additional categories, complexities within our own team. That we're going to resolve over time. But now if you translate that to the consumer, you're not trying to really hit them with all kinds of messages. Buy KFC, go to an independent restaurant. Yes, there's Pick and Pay groceries. How about some toys from Toy Kingdom, and so on and so forth. So I mean, to declutter that again, it comes down to much smarter personalization. And I mean, Fred spoke about it earlier. Data is the new gold. To some extent, we're already treating it that way. In many cases, at the moment, still only a lump of coal that requires more refinement, so we're using it as smartly and intelligently as possible. So the journey becomes decluttered and simple for the customer, really focusing on the search and discovery element. While you've got thousands of choices, how do you boil it down to a simple flow that the consumer can experience? But that's work in progress.
Awesome, thanks. So you mentioned something earlier around high frequency versus high urgency, and then lower frequency, high urgency. Linda, compared to your fellow panelists, you're in a bit of a different space where it is lower frequency, but I would say higher value generally and probably higher emotion when booking travel. So I think the confusing part there is consumers are approaching travel with new expectations because they want very similar levels of flexibility. And I guess we spoke a little bit around it, how timing has shortened to how they plan. So what changes have you seen in how South Africans are booking and experiencing travel?
So, and we also mentioned from a travel perspective, we thought, no, let's not go down the COVID route, we said. But, the reality is COVID sped up innovation, but also sped up the need for greater customer service. Suddenly there was panic, suddenly family was left high and dry in different countries, etc. So your customer now, and it's actually, I just suddenly thought about it with groceries being booked online, with food being booked online, instantly it's arriving at your door 5 minutes later. Travel is not as much going to your local travel agency, sitting there, spending half an hour with them. Your user, and in our case, our customer, they want to find what they're looking for at the best price with the best UI UX. They want it to all work nicely, and price given immediately, book and pay. If anything goes wrong, then it's as you say, much bigger emotional situation. It is like we need instant help. So they want to be able to trust who they're booking with, whether it's an airline, whether it's an OTA, whether it's a travel agent, whatever it is. Trust is critical. You're also parting with a very big sum of money. And so can you trust that you're going to be, you want that high touch experience, but you also want a great end-to-end user experience. So, yeah, I mean, your average South African would book maybe 2-3 times a year. We're talking about the travel population and domestic. It's who they feel most comfortable with and where they can get a quick, fast comparison and booking experience.
Perfect. And then I guess a personal question on my side is I've always wondered, How are you balancing the online experience when things are going well, but when it doesn't go well, are you still finding people want to talk to somebody in a call center?
100%, and I can put up both hands and say, you know, we destroyed a lot of trust in our brand over COVID when we, you know, for obvious reasons, we had to let go of a good portion of our staff, and that really, it took a bit of a period of time for Travelstart to regain their trust. But now you can call us, you can chat us, you can email us, you can do any form. I mean, you can find a Travelstart agent or human or bot or whatever you need. We're there. So you want to speak to a person, and you know, just with travel, it's not so easy when you're dealing with your aggregator. You're dealing with multiple airlines. Like every airline and every flight you book has different components to it, and so when you are speaking to that human, you want to know why there is still a refund that is not what you expected, and you know, so you want the understanding also that comes with travel in a panic situation.
Sure. So next to your Colonel Burger under your chairs is Linda's direct mobile number. So if you have any Travelstart issues, feel free to call her.
No worries. It's been used before. It can be used again.
Moving on to payments, which I guess is close to Stitch's heart naturally. But every year we do a consumer report. And this year's report came out that 71% of respondents said that they would completely abandon cart if there was a payment failure. And so we all know that's a critical point in the journey. Still a big friction point. And I think from a payment side, I think I've got 3 different topics for each of you on this. But at least for Alex, like generally, how does payments fit into the business with Mr. D? How do you think about it? We've obviously worked closely with your team this year. Would be good to get your take on this.
Okay, perfect. There's a couple of lenses to it. Now, from a discovery and first usage perspective, historically, cash on delivery has been really, really important, and high percentage of initial orders coming through COD, but of course, that already brings a lot of friction with it. I mean, you've got security concerns in certain areas, especially as you start moving deeper into the LSMs and township economies, where cash is most needed. However, it's also the most inaccessible from a security perspective. So that's the one element. So how do you now overcome it and make it as easily accessible as possible? Obviously, in the past, the only opportunity you really had credit card, and then there's a very second grudge would have been instant EFT, whether it's I don't know what Kian's term from earlier was, but the non-native experiences haven't really been seamless and smooth. So over the years, we started to see instant EFT go up, but where we've obviously then continuously transitioned people to using credit cards, but that's actually very complicated to manage at the end of the day, because in an industry like ours, where it's not just a once-off transaction, you've got people coming back over and over again, some people daily, some people weekly, some people monthly, but at a high frequency, having to make the decision about what's let's call it trusted card, so you can skip 3D Secure, versus where do you ask for the customer to go through 3D Secure, which is a massive friction point within the journey. And now, for the first time, a couple of months ago, when we actually launched Apple Pay, we've seen a massive reduction in terms of friction. So, firstly, friction for first-time buyers. You suddenly weren't reliant on a consumer taking their card out, reading the number, entering it into a system, going through 3D Secure, and creating a couple of opportunities to lose the consumer in that journey, versus downloading the app, creating a profile, adding items to cart, clicking pay, and at a much higher payment success rate. So wallet certainly is where we see the future going, without losing sight of some of the fundamentals that are still needed. I mean, COD is important in our business. We're going to continue, albeit at a smaller percentage, and cards, while shrinking, of course, is going to remain very, very relevant as we move forward. Looking forward to see what things like PayShop, which up until now has been underwhelming, but it has some potential, especially for the current cash economy as we move forward.
Awesome, thanks. So you mentioned cash, which I think KG want to chat to you a bit about this, because if we look at KFC, like historically brick and mortar, historically cash driven, I'm sure you're in a bit of a battle with digitizing and creating those journeys, but then also looking at the cash on delivery, order online, pay in store. Talk to me a bit about how you see cash in your world.
Yeah, so that's actually a very topical question. I was talking to my Woolworths colleagues about that. They asked me about cash and KFC. So we, as part of our digital transformation, we're not just running straight to the fully digital transactions. We've got a 3-phase approach to it, where we know our customers are sitting in these 3 different phases, and then we talk about how we move them. So we've got customers sitting in fully analog transactions, which means someone is assisting them in the store, they're paying cash, and we can't identify them. Then we've got this second stage where the customer is in a phygital world, where it's either someone is assisting them or not, they're paying cash or digital, or so one of these 3 things are not there, and we can't identify them when we can. And then we've got the fully digital transaction, where we can identify the customer, they're doing it self-service in terms of ordering, and they're paying digitally. So now for us, cash fits into that analog and into that phygital space that we talk about. And there we've got initiatives that are looking at how do we help customers move to the next phase. So in the analog space, we've then equipped our team members with the understanding of how to tell the customer about the kiosk, how to get them onto the kiosk, putting our lobby host in place to move them there. So when they go to the front counter, we only have one front counter staff member now because we've introduced kiosks for digital payments. That staff member can help educate the customer on using the kiosk. Now you say, okay, the kiosk doesn't accept cash. Well, soon it will. We've got a pilot running now around kiosks accepting cash, and how we make sure then customers, we can identify you, you can self-service, but you can still pay cash. So we're moving them from analog into that phygital space. And then from that space now, it's saying, customer, do you know that you can pay with the following payment methods? And PayShop was mentioned. And that is the whole thing about financial inclusion. That's PayShop's promise. So we are wanting to add those type of payment methods, including Capitec Pays and all those, to then get customers to stop using cash, but rather use alternative payment methods. So that's then moving them into the third space of fully digital and identified. So that's the journey we're on right now. We're not fighting cash, but we're helping customers move through those stages to use different payment methods going forward.
Yeah, I love what you said there. Don't fight the cash. I've noticed with a lot of brands that have gone completely cashless actually create more frustration. I think you need to ease them, whether you ease them out of it or ease them into a world where it's blended is most important. So Linda, for you, different payment method. Let's just go through all the payment methods Stitch sells, because Jess, head of sales. Travel is still seen as aspirational for many South Africans. So do new models like buy now, pay later, paying in installments, really broaden the access and how you're seeing that playing in your world? Or are we just like shifting risk elsewhere?
Interesting, and we had a brief discussion about it in the break, but we've tried BNPL, and we do think that there's definitely a space for it, and we are watch the space coming soon to a Travelstart near you. But yeah, it is. I mean, look, it's a large basket size. So BNPL, with those, if you're looking at a 40, 50, 100K basket size, BNPL has not had a high drop-off rate for us, so low acceptance, high drop-off. So we are looking at ways to work around that, and that will make travel more accessible to those who wish to use it. What we are seeing is now there's loyalty rewards programs. I mean, for us ourselves, Travelstart being embedded in multiple banking apps, loyalty apps, insurance companies. I mean, you've seen the success of Discovery, and Discovery Travel, Vitality Travel. That is really becoming one of the biggest, I suppose, just opportunities now from a payment perspective, that you can pay with rewards, and you can pay at the rewards, cash, anything, all in one transaction, which is really, that's incredible, and credit to the likes of Discovery for making that work really well. And it's now the aspiration of many telcos, many banks, many financial institutions to have a similar program.
Okay, awesome. Next topic is, I've been excited to have this discussion with the three of you, is the whole marketplace versus direct. And I think we've got very interesting brands on the panel, at least like two who can speak to it, and then Linda, you have the floor at least on Travelstart versus the airlines and direct hotels. But I want to chat about it because I don't think it's an either or. Setu, you said it earlier, which in an unrelated topic, but it's not about either or, it's about and what does that world look like and how do we create a layer of cohesiveness. But Alex, I'll start with you. So with brands like KFC investing heavily in direct digital channels, what role do you see the marketplace like yours playing in the future, and where are you sitting on the complementary versus competitive side of things?
Yeah, very, very good question. I mean, the first comment I need to make is Mr. D and KFC are friends. So that's the foundation of all of this. So I very much believe it is an and. I mean, facts are brands want first-party data. I mean, there's no beating around the bush. Platforms such as ours can aggregate large amounts of demand and then obviously bring it to the likes of KFC. So there's already a complementary relationship within that. And at the end of the day, it's about bringing the right channels to the consumer, and ultimately the consumer will pick what's, and I know I'm going to stick to the word convenient, but what's convenient to the consumer. You're giving control to the consumer, and if they've got many seamless paths to the end, I think it's better for the customer, and I think it's complementary, and there's sufficient demand for both. Similarly, if you take it a little bit further, I mean, how hard can it be to? I mean, we always say how hard can it be to deliver a pizza. In this case, how hard can it be to deliver a Colonel burger? Turns out actually bloody hard. So the positive flow isn't the hard bit, but once you have to work through the negative flows, it gets tricky, and that's where the likes of us can also help. Similarly, in areas where you've got lots of centralized demand, Cape Town Central, Johannesburg, yeah, you can set up your own fleets in order to satisfy that demand. But once you start moving outside of city centers, you probably have a much cheaper route to market once you go through an aggregator that can actually consolidate that demand. So certainly an and from our perspective.
Sounds good. I feel like, or at least what we're seeing from consumers and the merchants we speak to, is buying a single product on a single site or a direct site. Before, you would expect a certain quality or standard from that brand. Now you're able to buy the same product on different brands. And so what's happening is consumers are demanding a standardization on their experience, and we can speak to the payment side of it at least, which is good for the industry because it's forcing everyone to not think in their own bubble. It's forcing about how do we meet the consumer where they are, making sure the payments experience, at least for us, is succinct, it's smooth, and it doesn't matter where I'm buying. That payment goes A to B. So KG, so you're present on both direct channels and platforms like Mr. D, and obviously your strategy is to go direct digital, or at least digital. So how do you balance the two? And what do you think the future looks like for a brand like KFC specifically in South Africa?
So I think it's Fred who mentioned it around Mr. D being like a mall. We see it the same. So Mr. D is the mall, and it gets high traffic, and it's convenient, and it has variety. And for us, it brings us reach and scale. So new customers coming in because they may not have interacted with us on our own direct channels. So that's how we see Mr. D. But we see our channels and our app and web as the flagship store. This is where we build the relationship, we get the data, we reward our customers directly. So the two live together. You can have a mall, and then you have this flagship store where we build, deeper relationships with our customers. So again, it's an and for us. We're not competing, we're complementary. I think that analogy is how we think about it.
Awesome. So Linda, going more into the airlines and hotel space, which I think you mentioned post-COVID, and I hate speaking about travel and post-COVID because I feel like we're a lot far behind what's in the past now. But I think there is this sense of trust going direct and potentially looking at marketplaces more for the price comparison side. So how do you manage that? Where do you see that evolving within the within the Travelstart world?
So it's a good question, because I think, firstly, it's like who owns the customer. The customer will always choose who they want to be owned by. And I think, there's some airlines who do it really well, where they own the customer beautifully, and the traveler will be happy to go direct. But there's many that would actually rather us be the mall for them. So they don't, and they want us to actually own the customer, take on the customer service side of it at the end of the day, take on the marketing. They will choose for us to be cheaper. They will give us private exclusive fares so we are deliberately being cheaper than their website. So it's all really it comes down to airline or hotel group, literally individually. And, a Fly Safair, I heard you ask that question, and, you guys, you do a good job. But at the same time, it's also when a customer can make a comparison, and if they're booking multiple flights, then it's actually easier to use. Maybe, if you've got we'll just use it, a lift in one-way lift, one-way fare, it might be easier just to go directly to Travelstart. If you've got a Qatar, for instance, they are so excited for us to hold the customer, do all the hard work. As a customer, you also, if there's a lot of foreign airlines, much better to go to a Travelstart, because therefore you know that you don't have to now phone somewhere in South America or Singapore or wherever else. You are getting through to Travelstart, who it's our responsibility to make sure that we get you out of the situation you're in. Also with the Travelstart, where you've got, there's just, you've got your hotels, you've got your activities, you've got your car rental, so you've got a one-stop shop more so than bouncing off multiple different platforms, which is also, it's an easier experience for a customer if you're doing, looking for a one-stop shop.
So you said a few things there, but I'm going to make you pick one. But beyond just the price comparison, what's the next big advantage for a marketplace that you guys sell to?
Well, I think the product variation. So it is that I've booked my car. I can now book my car. I can now book my hotel, and at the same time, if you're booking it all in one wallet, and it is easier, and you've got one place to go for everything. And I think that is very useful. I'd also say in big sales periods, when you've got your Black Fridays coming up, instead of having to shop between one airline and another, or you've got everything on one site. And we also are all best friends anyway. The relationship with Travelstart and the airlines is, so symbiotic. We need them, they need us. We work well together. And if they need a plane filled in November, low season, you want to fill the back of the plane, they'll want to come to a Travelstart, because we can get a message out immediately on, and build their volumes nicely. So it's a good relationship. So
awesome.
I know I wasn't picking one, but I would just say one-stop shop.
No, I'll let you have it.
Thank you.
Awesome. So thinking about more personalization and data, KG, how do you balance rolling out new digital features, or how will you balance rolling them out, but keeping your operations simple and consistent across your hundreds of stores and millions of customers?
Thousands of stores.
Sorry. Thousands.
So that is one of the toughest things for us to do, right? Because you can have the best technology, but then if it complicates ops, then it just won't work. And my ops director always reminds me that when I've got a big brain fart in the morning, I'm like, I'm going to do this, Juanita. She's like, it's not going to work in our store. And as part of our onboarding, actually at KFC, you have to spend 2 weeks in the KFC store doing all the work end to end. So I have accepted chicken delivery, I have frozen the chicken, I've thawed the chicken, I've breaded it, I've fried it, I've done the drive-through with the little speaker situation. I did mess up the time. You've got a certain time to give the customer the food. I was like 30 minutes in and I had my whole drive-through packed. So basically we understand what it means to work in the store and understand the staff. So with that, we created a model around how we roll out tech into store. It has to be simple, so it either solves the customer's need and is easy for the customer, or it solves one of our team members' needs. If it doesn't do that and it's just for fun, we don't roll it out. The second one has to be scalable. So what we always do is we test the solution that we want to put into one of our flagship stores. We put it into like a 4-ways, for example, where we get feedback from the staff members and they tell us, no, it didn't work for us, or here's the areas you can improve before we scale it. And then the third one is about people. It's all about the people that are using it. So we say we want technology to be their assistants and their friends. We don't want them to work for the technology. One of the things that I realized when I was working in store is every time you fry something, you actually have to add it on the KDS screen. So I fried this batch of fries, I must say I fried one, and then it's got a time, the timer starts, and then as soon as the timer's done, I must throw them away, fry another one. But that was so complex. We realized that's not working because now I'm working for the technology is not working for me. So a big part of Byte and the tech that we're rolling out is to say, how do we have AI assistants for our team members who actually speak to them and say, okay, your fries are going to be done now, get the new batch, instead of us having to look at the screen and actually think about the work we're doing as well. So that's a big part of our model. It's scale, simple, people.
Awesome. You think Byte could give me that for my kitchen? I feel like you got a side hustle brewing there. Alex, for you, you have a lot of data about what South Africans eat and buy, both from like food and general groceries. So what does the future of personalization look for you? And how do you make sure, I don't think people are too hectic on this anymore, but how do you make it feel like it's not surveillance?
Yeah, picking up on some of the things that I mentioned earlier. So firstly, a lot of our communication at the moment is still reasonably generic. Obviously, there are lots of personalized elements, but nowhere near where we want it and need it to be. So I mean, that's going to have to be key for the next couple of years, because I don't think people mind or consumers mind trading data and insights with you as long as you keep it relevant for them. So there's something in it for them, as long as you're helping their discovery journey and you're making it easier to find the things that you're actually looking for. I think consumers are quite happy about that, and it's not creepy or feels like surveillance in that sense. Additionally, and I think the question is much bigger: how are consumers going to interact with platforms going forward? I mean, as agentic shopping is going to become a thing, and there's a good chance that some of those developments are going to be a lot faster. So how does discovery actually originate? Does it originate on the platform? Does it originate off the platform? We heard from TikTok earlier. There's obviously a great element within that. So personalization actually almost starts at that level. Then the last thing, and that's obviously key for us as well, to some extent, advertising is important for the sustainability of the platforms, and advertising and personalization, while it doesn't always have to be at odds, at least in theory, advertising should always make the customer experience a little bit worse, because if it doesn't, then you're not doing a great job in terms of merchandising and personalizing in a non-constrained world. So while I don't know exactly what the future looks like, I think we understand what the dynamics are that we need to manage and that we need to look at very, very closely and obviously continuously and relentlessly improve.
Awesome. We are at time, so I think for me, just hearing what you have all said, it is about sharing the customer. It's about creating a cohesive journey for the customer. And I think a key thing is giving our customers credit. They understand who they're buying from. If you have a layer of transparency, let's say in the world of a Mr. D, I order KFC of Mr. D, and if I get a delivery, I know which stakeholders involved in the process. So I think the future of online commerce for me is being shaped by all of us, with the consumer at the heart of it. So that's it from us. We will hand over for any questions in the audience. Is there a mic? It's okay, I'll bring mine.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. That was it was so insightful. I think the balance of the different thoughts and insights across the industries was so good to hear. Alex, question for you. I think what's so interesting is when you create a business like Mr. D, you've got the processes, you've got the vision, and you've got a client experience you want to execute on. But at the end of the day, the way the business is perceived could be different in the market. What do you want a client to feel and experience using Mr. D? And how do you guys keep track of that to make sure you keep iterating to make sure you achieve that?
You could have just WhatsApped me. That's
Yeah, I warned you about me. I didn't warn you about Deerwald.
He didn't warn me about Deerwald. Look, yeah, I mean, the customer experience is key. And I mean, as Fred mentioned earlier, we've got so many operational data points that we keep track of. I mean, it starts in the discovery journey. It then continues in the transaction process and where people may drop off. And then obviously very importantly, and that's the one we look at the most, is the experience as part of the delivery. Once again, being a marketplace, we don't control the entire journey. We're reliant on what restaurants are doing. We're reliant on what drivers are doing. And ultimately, I mean, we're collecting that feedback from the customer. On the one hand, through ratings at the end of the order. We've got regular NPS surveys that go out, and then we can start correlating and collating that with all kinds of our internal operational data points from our customer services environment. One really important place and space that we look at are actually the Apple the iOS store as well as the Play Store reviews, because there's absolute richness. I mean, a couple of weeks ago we had issues with Standard Bank payments, and it's not a specific metric that we looked at. And in the bigger scheme of things, it was drowned out in the overall data. However, even customers didn't tell us in sufficient detail that we understood it, but we could pick it up within our Play Store reviews that there was a specific problem with Standard Bank consumers and a specific bin. So it's really about, on the one hand, listening to what customers are telling you directly, but then augmenting that with whatever and all channels you've got available. And once again, AI is going to be our friend with that, because it will help us collate and get much richer and deeper insights. So in other words, moving from pure data to actually insight-led discovery and ultimately action.
So maybe before we go on to the next question, I just want to also add something around perception. You said perception and what you actually want customers to experience. I'm going to shamelessly plug our ad hoc program and also speak to what you said around getting feedback from customers. So we've got, and everyone knows, the R2 that's donated with your meal. Perception around that sometimes is not that great, right? But we've realized that, we've listened to the customer, we've got feedback. And just last week we had a hackathon with UJ. We partnered with them and got their students to say, if we had to use technology and the data we have around Ad Hope and our beneficiaries to actually elevate the program and change the perception and create visibility of where the beneficiaries are and how they're donating, what would happen. So we judged that hackathon on Tuesday. We've got our winners. We've shared our secret sauce or secret spices around how we do Ad Hope. We are saying that anyone can add on to the Ad Hope platform so that we can change the perception, but then using tech as well in that space. So shameful plug, please do put the R2 in. You will start seeing it and where it's going.
That's awesome.
Hi, it's Ross from Pepcore. We sell a lot of phones, KG, and the most successful bundle deal I've ever done was a Nokia 3210 with a 30 Rand KFC voucher. People bought a phone because of your chicken. I just wanted to ask, not internally, but from a customer-facing perspective, how you guys are thinking about agents. I mean, I'll give two examples. Last night, I'm on my way home, I'm late, my partner's late. We're going to order takeaways. Shit, it would have been nice to do it in the car just by saying, hey, listen, 2 pizzas from Butler's and use my card and let it pay instead of having to go to an app or phone and wait. And in the travel example, I mean, you fly to Joburg, you want to say, I want to go next week, Wednesday, Friday. I don't want to fly too late, but I have to be there by 9 for a meeting, whatever, and let that come back. And that's a more transactional one. But my partner's going on business to Japan, so I'm hooking on the coattails. Now I want advice, right? I want to say, I want to fly to Japan. I want to end up in Kyoto, but I don't want long layovers, but I don't have money because I'm paying for this flight. And have that conversation, and instead of, I think the old Travelstart interface was great in 2.0, but I have to go and look at the layovers and sort by price and sort by airline. I just want to give parameters to an agent and then let it come back. How are you guys thinking about agents in your 3 businesses?
So I'll kick off. I spoke about Byte, and one of the divisions in Byte is called Crave AI, which is specifically focused on that. And there's areas that we're looking at adding that. So that's at our drive-through. We are testing how that works at the drive-through. So we know that speed is something there. So can a customer just say what they want, not to a person? When I was working again in the store, we all get the sound or the speaker coming through so we can start prepping the order as the customer's ordering. So we're looking, how can we actually fix that by a customer just speaking, not to the person and going, yeah, hey, what did you say? No stores, no this, no that. Trying to streamline that process, but also looking how we put that into our apps and to our kiosk as well. So there's a big focus on that. I know the winners and the hackathon participants, their solutions are going to be posted up. But one of them actually developed a solution where a customer can order fully through an AI agent. They built it out. It was so amazing to see what the students can do. But it is a big focus of our future.
Awesome. Ross, totally agree with you. My partner said, can I ask, hey Siri, please get me 2 tickets to the box game in Dublin and flights at this rate, and I want to, et cetera, and then I had to remind him that the future we could do that. We just couldn't organize the visa in the 16 weeks that Dublin needs, or Ireland, Irish visa takes. But 100% we are working on that. We have already got an AI travel assistant on our platform that's been going for about a year now, and now we've got a full team working on that and getting it with voice to this point. And it's going to take a while, but it's definitely where we are heading. And with more complex, so with simple itineraries, you can already book on the AI with the AI expert. And I must say that we're getting about 100 clicks a day through, or 100 visits a day to that AI site, and then bookings are growing daily on literally done just as you've said. But more complex itineraries are being worked on while we speak by a phenomenal team of developers, internal developers with Travelstart. So it is coming, and I look forward to seeing you in the office and saying to you, this is how it works. Give it a go.
Cool. If you ask my partner if Travelstart has that, he'll say it exists. He just doesn't realize it's me. Anyways, thanks everybody. Thank you. It was a pleasure to share the stage with you. And if you want to grab any of them for questions, please feel free to do so. Thanks.
Thank you.